When my father died, I had the responsibility to administrate and do all that funeral stuff. Today I will show you 10 reasons why administrating a funeral doesn't give you any time to mourn, be sad, or anything on your beloved one. You know what? When a person is dead, it's not the responsibility of a hospital or the welfare state or whatever. When a person is dead, it's the funeral agencies taking over. Is he going to be cremated or not? Flowers or not? Who is coming? How many? His death certificate, right into the government, his bank accounts. It's endless. Yeah, just some hours after I heard my father was dead, the phone rang. And it was the funeral agency asking me, what kind of coffee do you want? And I was like, what? Coffee? What? And she was like, we have one with velvet and it's a beautiful thing. And then I was like, oh my God, that's probably expensive, but I shouldn't talk about money now because it's death and I'm supposed to mourn. And I knew my father wanted something simple, something not that decorated. No, really, really simple. So I said to her, I want the simplest you have. And I felt a bit shameful because it sounded I was not wanting to spend any money on this. But you know what? From that phone call, I know that's a taxometer going on here. And you don't see it. And you're not supposed to think about it. And all these funeral agencies, people, and they say, oh, no, don't think about it. You have to use the time to mourn, be sad and all that. Don't think about the money now. And you have to have a funeral ad, or what you say, that's a notice. Yeah, it's a death notice in the newspaper. And who do you have to write down there? And the funeral person, she knew my father and she knows my family, and she was like, I said I want them and them, and then she called me, no, you have to have them too, and you have to include these ones, and you can't say them, and you have to call them to ask if it's okay, do you put them in there? And it was like, okay. And what kind of poem should you write on the funeral notice? And I was like, poem? I mean, what?
What kind of poem did you have?
No, she wrote a poem. She was like, oh, I knew your father, I think this one is good. And she read it to me, and I was like, it's okay. It was something about the sea, and he was a sailor, and I was like, okay, do it, take it. The waves sadly goes towards land. The seaside and the boat has lost its captain. And to the obituary I also had to pick out a symbol, and this symbol with a heart, a cross and an anchor, I felt it was like a sailor's tattoo, so I choose that. He was never tattooed, but he was a sailor. I don't live here anymore. I moved when I was 15 and I haven't lived here since. One of the houses, maybe you can't see them, they are just small spots. One of those houses is mine. I know, it looks beautiful. It's exotic, it's everything. But to live here, to grow up here, it's narrow-minded. Ooh, yeah. And if you don't fit in, you're gonna have a hell of a time. I really have mixed emotion actually now. Tomorrow is the funeral, and now I have to go straight up to the church and carry my father's coffin inside the church. I wasn't actually prepared for that. But I really didn't expect it, so I was like saying to my mother, oh, okay, we're not, I know you are hungry, but we cannot go direct to that
house and eat because we have to pass by the church and carry my dead father in his coffin into the church.
I don't know any hymns, so I just have to... Yeah, I hope they are okay. These are the hymns that we will have tomorrow.
They say, well, you have to give us 3 hymns to sing. Okay, really? Hymns? And I was like, when I was a child, yes, we sung some hymns at this village which is very religious, and I was like, I could remember one and one only, and I was like, okay, I want at least this one.
Ingen så trygg I fare som Guds lille barneskare.
You know, 1 week after my father died, the priest called me. He was Danish, he didn't know my father, and he really didn't know the language. And he asked me, please, I didn't know your father, can you write down 2 pages about who your father was and about his life? I mean, how can you put 75 years in 2 pages and then make it available for the priest to talk about in the church?
A funeral is a depressed situation. I want to make a happy speech. I want to celebrate my father. I want to express some of this feeling here. You can see him. But I think my family here, the people here, they are so old-fashioned. It's a small village. And you have very Christian moral rules. So I'm not sure what's polite, what to do, what to write.
So one of the comments when I was finished, well, some of course said, oh, we were crying and it was so lovely. But some younger relatives, they were like, okay, so now we're doing humors in a funeral? That's a new one. And the funeral agency asked me, okay, which 6 people are carrying the coffin out from the church to the car? And I'm like, okay, 6 people. And then you end up asking people that you really don't want to ask, that you don't talk to, I mean, on an everyday basis. And it's like, can you please help me carry out the coffin? I had to call and I had to ask.
How was that? How was it to call?
They had to know how many people is coming to that meeting later on. And I was like, oh my God, how can I know? Should I call everyone and ask? Or and I asked them, how do you do this? And they were like, when you're in church, you say you have an open house and then everybody can come. And I was like, what? But if there's 150 people at the church, should I invite all of them? Should I pre-order lapskaus for 150 people? I mean, I was like, it would cost me a fortune. I ended up with 45 person, and it was 10 more than I think the 35 people came actually. So, yeah, so at least I did something. I mean, imagine if I've been taking 150.
This is my childhood home.
And the question didn't stop. I mean, okay, he was now blah, blah, blah. He was on his way to the oven. But then they asked me, what should you do with a childhood house? You know you can't let it stand here alone. You have to do something. What will you do? Will you rent it? Will you redecorate it? What? You should fix the roof. You should fix the water. It damp, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
should I sell it? Should I keep it? as a summer house? Should I rent it out? It's not in the best conditions, but it's kind of an okay house. In the end, I got like this book, and it says memory book, and I'm so like, okay, that's a nice thing. And when you open it, they have placed the bill for the funeral inside. It's really, really expensive to have a funeral in Norway, really. So in the end, I paid like 5,000 euros for the funeral. Landed, I mean, postponed it maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think there will be this major breakdown and oh, I miss. If it happened, it should have happened at the funeral or after I knew he was dead. There was no time, so. So, if you want to have more like a sunshine story or something, you have to subscribe and wait for a new video. I think that will be more cheerful and happier than this one. But even though, I am relieved. Okay, see you, bye bye.